Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And it's very late.
It's been 24 hours since we've recorded. Not even.
Did we really start that late yesterday?
Well, since we stopped recording.
Oh, since we stopped, I was gonna say. Yeah, no, definitely not. Obviously, since it was only 5 hours ago that we recorded the last episode, we don't have a lot of updates, except that we did see a show today that was mind-blowing.
And it's going to influence a future episode.
And I can't recommend it to you because it's closed. Well, it will be by the time tomorrow. You see this. Yeah. The Mckitra Hotel is a interactive, all immersive venue for shows in New York. It's the home of Sleep No More, which is the coolest thing ever. And if you know anything about theater, you should absolutely experience it. And then it's also got like a restaurant and a bar and all this stuff in this old, like 1920s hotel that is stunning.
Very Tower of Terror-esque.
And they had a performance of The Woman in Black, which is a Daniel Radcliffe movie, but also it is a play, and it was a play and a book. And the play is the second longest running play in London in the West End. It opened in 1989, and it's amazing.
We had a good time.
It was so good.
And then we had coffee.
And then we had sushi.
Sushi's good.
Yeah.
And that's all the things we did today. We ordered takeout for breakfast.
We went to the show. Then we had coffee. Then we watched Dead Like Me movie.
Oh, yes.
Then we had sushi.
That's
and now we're here. It's been a day.
It has been. And I can't say it was the best top off.
No.
To our day, unfortunately, which is why we're here.
So we watched Dead Like Me, Life After Death, the movie, which I knew was not going to satisfy me, but I didn't know just how much I was going to hate it. Yeah. So it was rated 6.1 stars, which means we were not alone.
It was the lowest rated of all of the Dead Like Me.
That might be a lower rated than Hemlock Grove.
It might be.
No, I think some Hemlock Groves were like 5 point something, but like, oof. Also, it was rated R.
Which I think...
I don't know why.
I think only, I guess, because of language.
I guess. I mean, and there was some sexual stuff.
Yeah, but they have that in PG-13.
Yeah, so I don't know. It came out on February 17th, 2009. I was a junior in high school.
I was, I guess, a sophomore in high school.
The number one song, I laughed so hard when I read this today, and I wouldn't tell Courtney what it was. The number one song was Crack a Bottle by Eminem, Dr. Dre, and 50 Cent.
That's not what I expected you to tell me. I didn't even know it hit number 1.
Yep.
Oh.
Which in honor of the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago made me very happy.
Feels right.
Feels right.
2009 was a weird year, man.
I don't remember. I mean, I do, but like I remember like my junior and senior year of high school, but I don't know. I don't remember them in like context of the world and just in context of the nonsense that I was doing.
Right.
The number one movie of the week was Friday the 13th.
Another horror film.
Which broke the record for the highest slasher film debut, which was previously held by Freddy vs. Jason. So Freddy vs. Jason held the record all the way from the time Dead Like Me season 2 came out until the movie.
Oh God.
I wish someone would have slashed this movie.
Yes.
I didn't write the blurb. I don't care.
I also didn't write the blurb.
Um,
I can't imagine what it said.
it was directed by Stephen Herk. It's spelled Herek, but it's one of the trivias on his page said that it rhymed with perk.
That,
So.
that would be Herc then.
Yep.
We don't know. Him.
I do though.
Oh, okay.
My note literally says, "What a time to be alive," because this is the man that directed Mr. Holland's Opus,
Okay, I haven't seen it, but I'm familiar.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure,
Mhm. I have seen that.
the 1996 Glenn Close version of 101 Dalmatians,
Okay.
and 11 episodes of My MacGyver.
These are strange connections. Like, I don't see a lot of similarities between these things.
No.
I have some questions for Mr. Herc. If you could give me a call, I'd like to ask what happened.
Yeah.
That makes sense why some of those listed were not excellent films.
I only listed excellent films.
I didn't care for 102 Dalmatians so much.
No, the first one, 101, not 102.
Which one was? I thought the only live one was 102.
No, there was a 101, a live one of 101, and it was actually pretty good.
Oh, maybe it was.
Yeah.
I'm not remembering that one, so
Yeah.
it's possible that that one was great.
It was written by John Massius and Stephen Gotcha.
As it should have been,
Only,
but I think they forgot what the story was before
yeah, I'm
they
not really
came back
thrilled
from
about
it.
that. We do have 2 new main cast members that we need to talk about.
Do we? Do we though?
Henry Ian Cusick.
Who you were stoked about to be in this movie?
I was, and here's the thing: I love him
Mhm.
almost as much as I love Mandy Patinkin. For those of you who don't know, he was in Lost, he was in MacGyver, he was in Scandal, he was in The 100. Basically, he plays the same character in absolutely everything he's ever been in, except that he was not likable. Like, he plays that character, but in a much more schmoozy, charming, likable way.
Gotcha. Because you had said he like would fit the fatherly role still.
Yes, because his version of the boss in MacGyver is both schmoozy prick and father figure.
Right. We just missed the father figure version.
The other new main cast member we need to talk about is Sarah Winter.
And I despise her. I wish her well, but I wish she had never been involved in this franchise.
Yeah, she had a couple like recurring roles, none of which I know. She was in 24, Windfall.
Those are good shows.
Yeah, American Odyssey and Goliath. So like, but they're all like pretty decent sized roles, not main characters, but
she did. I bet she's not a terrible actress. She was terrible at acting as Daisy.
But interestingly, in her role in 24, she plays Laura Harris's sister. So that was some of the trivia that Sarah Winter and Laura Harris were sisters in 24. So like at least
I bet Laura Harris had a hand in picking her then.
Maybe.
But I think Laura Harris was just made for the role of Daisy.
I know.
I think that's what happened. There was not really anybody who could replace her.
Yeah.
Sarah Winter did not even come close, I felt.
We do have 3 guest stars. The least significant of the 3 being Vlasta Vrana, who I thought was going to be a bigger part in the movie based on where he was ranked in the credits. But nope, he was the old scientist guy who killed himself in the beginning.
Okay.
He does mostly foreign and voice work.
Fun fact, I think. I meant to look this up because I don't remember if I'm remembering this correctly or if it was like a fever dream. I think that the Rube Goldberg suicide machine was a real thing someone did.
Probably.
I think it was like a big deal. Maybe 10 years ago. It may have been around the same time. That's probably where they got it from. But I saw it. I was like, I'm pretty sure I heard about this and it wasn't in a book.
Probably. There was no trivia on it.
I meant to look it up and got distracted.
Then we have Jordan Hudyama, which is a very Asian sounding last name for a very white man.
Mhm.
And he played
Hudson
Hart. He's in Suits.
I love Suits.
But I saw the name and I go, I think I know that person. And then I clicked on it and I go, no, I do. Because he was in Degrassi.
When? Not the Next Generation.
Yes. In the Next Generation, but
The new Next Generation.
the class just under
Like
when
with
we were.
Sinclair and all them.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't remember all of those. I remember, like,
His name
three
was
of those.
Blue.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I follow. Very
But
Canadian
also with Degrassi, his girlfriend was Shanae Grimes.
I love her.
I do too, except for that I absolutely hate every character she plays.
Right. She was also in 90210. I think.
Yes, she was the main.
Yeah.
She was the main character in the 90210 reboot, and she was also in a show called Naturally Sadie.
Oh yeah,
which starred another of the Degrassi girls.
Not starring my dog. Yes.
But it is about animals.
Yes.
I
love her though. I think she's like. I know she plays a very similar role and everything, but I think she's so good at it. And I just
worry that that's who she is as a person because I hate it.
No, I feel like we would have heard more about her if so, because she has been in so many like teen drama things that she would have come out as like a teen drama.
Maybe.
So maybe. I like to believe she's a wonderful person who's really good at playing a mean person.
And then we get into the movie, which immediately I'm not thrilled about. Because the new credits are like a comic book.
It felt very much like we were watching a Marvel show.
I hated it.
But like pre-Marvel. I mean, I guess some of the Marvel stuff had started coming out, but it was like not huge.
They also changed the origin story of Death.
Yes.
Only slightly.
Right.
What I wrote was that it's just enough that it sounds like someone was playing telephone and had to retell the story.
Right.
Like it's changed just enough to be annoying to me.
Yeah, this intro made it feel like they were writing this movie to pretend like the show never existed.
Yeah.
And
also the comic book version of Rube didn't even remotely look like him.
No, not at all.
And then we see the Rube Goldberg murder man, and I wrote that has got to be the most elaborate waste of time on a suicide I've ever seen in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So George is raping, and she's giving a monologue that is basically the first 3 episodes of the series over again. Right. And
because
then we come to
like they didn't exist.
Then we come to the first thing.
Before we get there, kind of in the opening scene, we have some music playing over it too, and it sounds so murder mystery. Right, which like is not the vibe of this movie or this show.
But because my thing was it's still about that scene though, because then we come to the first moment where I realized that they don't care about the fans.
Mm-hmm. When was that?
Because they rewrote the rules of her department. She's the Department of External Forces. Since when is suicide not one of those forces?
Yeah, she said we don't really deal with this. I was like,
she said we don't. She said we don't normally do suicides. Well, we didn't know what was going to happen here. And I was like, literally in episode 1, when they talk about external forces, suicides are one of the things that they mentioned. They've showed multiple suicides on the show.
Right. I'm telling you, it's like they just wanted to pretend like the show never existed.
Yeah,
which is insane because the show was good.
And then somebody says something to George about something happening, and she says, "You have no idea."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, that means the next scene is going to be when we find out Rube's gone." It just was like badly written.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Badly written. Oh, and still in this fucking monologue before we even get into the meat of the show, after
It's really long.
it was because they're retelling the whole show.
Right.
After she is done with this guy, she's sitting on top of a building and she's like, I love early morning reaps. And it's very similar to the scene from the first episode where Betty's on top of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote, for people who can't jump or climb walls, you spend a lot of fucking time on top of buildings.
They really do. I think
you can't fly, you can't jump. You're like, what the? How did you get up there?
No, I think what happened was John Massius and Stephen Gottschall, who wrote most of the show, didn't write the beginning, and this is their take on writing the beginning,
which is not good.
No, and it's because they're changing things that have already happened.
And like we said last week, we can say all we want about their writing, but Brian Fuller's the world builder, and they took away from his world, and I did not care for it.
I agree.
Then we see our Fantastic Four outside of Dare Waffle House, which is now burnt to a crisp.
I was also devastated that they burned it down.
I was devastated.
That felt unnecessary.
By the fact that I was today years old when I figured out why the name of that place bothers me so much.
Yes.
And
we were sitting at sushi and she just looks at me.
And it's because waffle is a neuter noun. Because you know how in French and Spanish, everything has a masculine or feminine. In German, there are 3 genders. There is a masculine, feminine, and a neuter. Waffle is a neuter noun. So der is not the correct article. It should be Das Waffelhaus. And then I got pissed off.
And then it all went downhill from there.
Unfortunately, I had watched the movie before I saw this, so it was already in the bottom of the hill.
That's true.
But Roxy and Mason proved to me that they're the only characters that I give a shit about. Because they're fighting about burning down the Waffle House.
Yeah. And
Roxy pulls out her gun and she's telling him that if he doesn't tell her what he did, she's going to shoot him in a way that means whenever, this is the thing that she said, whenever you get on your knees in a glory hole, which means that he's the one sucking the dick.
Right.
So that was confusing. But she said, whenever you were on your knees at a glory hole, you are thinking of me. He said, I already am.
This was another thing. Like, Mason's character was just like, start over.
Yes. Well, and that's the next thing. And then I said, I hate the new Daisy.
I already hate the new Daisy.
And I
said, my next note.
And then it says, and I also absolutely hate that they're reintroducing us to characters based on the things that they've already grown out of.
Right. And the thing is, these are the writers that evolved it.
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't know how the story went. They wrote the season finale, the series finale.
Yeah.
They know where the story went. Yeah. It makes no sense why they've just like started over.
It was awful. Then they get picked up at by a limo to go to a restaurant, and they meet Cameron Kane. I wrote, he's literally exactly the same in every show he's ever in, except that, you know how some people, they like make jokes about people like aging like fine wine?
Mm-hmm.
This man is so much more attractive now, like 15 years later. Way better looking.
Completely. I do not know what he looks like today.
Like that, but with like a gray beard and much more like definition in his face. He aged well. And the long hair makes him look like a fucking hippie. Which doesn't make sense because he's a businessman who died jumping out of one of the towers during 9/11. Why he would never have his hair that long working. Like if you look like what you look like when you died.
Yeah.
How the fuck?
I mean, it was 2009. What year did he die? Because 2003 or 2006 was a real flowy hair.
Well, but he died in 2001. If he jumped out of the building.
Oh, yeah.
He jumped out of a tower during 9/11. He died in 2001.
My brain
did not do that correctly.
Those
And he says that Rube's department wasn't keeping up with the times, so he's taking it over. and giving them cell phones instead of post-it notes.
And I don't care for that. It is more efficient. I don't care. I like their morning meetings, their post-it notes. It brings humanity to it.
Yeah. Roxy decides that Cameron must be lying because Rube would never just leave them. And then we get some more A+ Roxy dialogue because Daisy's like, yeah, well, he heard about me. And she goes, yeah, he heard that you're a stank asshole.
I know. It's like, this is classic Roxy.
And then they get their reaps, and Roxy doesn't have one for the day because Cameron is more worried about efficiency, and Roxy is straight up pissed. But then later in the episode, I figured out that he isn't actually worried about efficiency because I thought the reason that Daisy had 2 reaps and Roxy had 0 was because they were together. But they were not.
No, they were not. I do like that they used this scene to address Rube leaving. I'm glad that they didn't just not mention it because I was a little concerned. I mean, I knew we talked about them mentioning it.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know where we were going to
go. Yeah, and they talk about how like Roxy's the most affected by it because she A, knew him the longest, and B, assumed that she would get the position when he left.
As we all did.
And they said that they think he saved Roxy from a reap because of sensitivity. And I said, no, he literally just doesn't give a single fuck. There was no sensitivity present in that man.
I think so.
I don't. I think he was no. Cameron not giving.
Oh, okay.
They said that Cameron didn't give her the reap because she needed to grieve today. And I was like, he doesn't give a single fuck.
No, that is correct. That is correct.
And then we find out that we have once again leaned into the fact that Millie looks like a different person than George. But she got an upgrade in the looks department.
Right. It's a whole new person now.
But I think it fits her better than
I absolutely do.
Than it did in the TV show.
I agree.
And then we find out that Reggie is now 16 and still completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Also cannot drive.
No. And she's talking about wanting a car. And she's like, I'll take one. She's like, for my 16th birthday. And she says, it can be used. I can deal. And Joy just looks at her. Joy's like, deal.
During Joy and Reggie's interaction, we find out that Clancy has moved.
Which is another thing I'm glad that they addressed. Because I feel like they should have addressed this before today.
I have one problem because yes, they addressed it now, but then later we have a flashback where he fully should be in it. And he's not. Or at least like have been addressed in it and he wasn't.
Yeah, that's true.
Then Joy starts to talk to Reggie about George, and Reggie shuts down. And I was like, since when do you not talk about George?
Right.
But then she opens up again because Joy's like, one time when I was teaching George how to drive, she let go of the steering wheel so that she could flip someone off with both hands. And Reggie says, so what hand do you flip them off with? And Joy, this motherfucker, said the hand not holding the cell phone.
She's like, you're a dumb teenager. I know how this is going to go.
No, you put your phone down and then flip them off. Or just never pick it up while you're driving.
Right. I would recommend not picking up your cell phone while driving. But yes.
Then we go to a parking lot where I wrote, oh, this looks like a fucking episode of Degrassi.
It did. I had the same thought.
Because everyone was in Degrassi.
Yeah.
And also just like the way they were all standing around the parking lot. Like that's, okay, you went to a different kind of high school than I did. Mm-hmm. Did people just stand around the parking lot? Mm-hmm. That is so dumb.
Where did you want me to go?
Not at the school. Why do people just hang out?
Because everyone lives 30 minutes away from the school in different directions. That was the central point. And you were already there. You didn't have to pay for anything because you were there. Sometimes we would go to Sonic and hang out at Sonic.
We just came to school, went to school, and then left. We didn't like each other that much.
Oh.
Just kidding. We all liked each other.
We liked each other. We did, but we like didn't have anything else going on in our town. You were involved in your activities and you hung out at school all the time. Yes.
Then we find out that Joy is a support group leader now.
Which I like.
I do too. I like what they did with Joy a lot. She's
I
probably the character that I'm the only character that I'm satisfied with what the movie did to them.
Yeah.
I wrote, which is a fucking leap from where she was in her
right
3 years ago, but
it's about time.
Yeah. So then we go back to Happy Time. We have a really fucking weird moment between Millie and Crystal. And then guess what? Crystal's not in the fucking ever again in the movie.
We see her face. She doesn't talk or anything though, but we see her face a few times as Millie walks by her.
Yeah, but like just in the background.
Yeah.
She's not a part of the story.
I know. I thought she was really going to be like included.
Tiffany wasn't even in it at all because they burned down the fucking Waffle House.
I know. I was devastated about that because I also thought she was going to be in it.
Also, clearly a different office.
Yeah.
Very, very different.
Very corporate. They had a new logo. It was not very happy time.
George clearly had a fucking promotion.
Yeah.
It was a mess. It was a mess.
And a power trip. Like, she had a lot.
But Dolores is currently bringing Murray into work every day because he has kidney disease and he's dying. And I
love Dolores.
What a gem.
What a woman.
Because she researched her contract and found out that bereavement doesn't count if it's a pet.
Right.
I have no words for that.
Yes.
Then they go to a hair salon.
And my next note just says, I hate New Daisy.
And New Daisy is talking about how hair salons are sexy.
Yeah.
And Roxy said, that's like saying a mortuary is sexy. And Mason said, a mortuary is sexy. And she said, that's because you're dead.
Right.
And Daisy said, no, that's because he's sick. And I was like, I don't care for her, but that was the appropriate joke at that moment.
And then if we want to completely ignore Daisy from now on in this scene, that's fine because Roxy and Mason start playing this game.
Oh, my last note about her is that even I literally says at least the Daisy knockoff is still good at her job.
Yes.
Like she still had that Daisy ability to be good at her job in a way that no one else is.
Yeah.
So that was I appreciated that.
Right.
But correct. Back to the more important parts of that scene.
Roxy and Mason are playing this game of which one of these people and how are they going to die? Like are going to die.
Yeah. It's called high risk factors,
yes.
which they played in the very first episode of the show when Mason took George to the bank and they had their first reap and they had never talked about it again until this. So I did appreciate
like that. Yeah. That felt right. And it was so funny because they were talking about things that made sense. And all of a sudden she goes, in this woman, Mason goes, what about her? She's like, nothing. I just want her dead. It's like, okay, Roxy.
Yeah. But then Zach, the guy who was going to die, made me laugh in a sad way because he really thought a girl that hot was going to hit on him.
So dumb.
So dumb.
Probably stoned.
And then they changed the special effects of how they died.
I do not like this.
I hate it
because one of the things that I liked so much about the effects in Dead Like Me was when somebody died, you didn't have to see anything about it. You just see them come back as a whole person.
Yes.
Beside the Reaper, and they go into their new life.
The spirit also, the fact, the way that the light on their arm is different now. Didn't like that. Don't like the spirits. Hate everything about it. Fuck that. Fuck that choice.
Yeah, I did not like that. That was not an improvement.
And speaking of not improvements, Cameron, not an improvement because he didn't give Daisy enough time to walk her person to his lights. Yeah.
I also want to say in this scene, there is zero chemistry between Cal and Blue and New Daisy.
No, zero.
None.
the new graphics of the show had a different coloring and everything, and it was definitely a more cinematic feeling.
Yeah.
And I hated it.
I agree. You wanted that, like, I don't think homey is the right word, but like warmer maybe.
Yeah.
And like you felt like you were a part of something watching it. Mm-hmm. And this is not that.
No.
This is not that.
Then George misses her reap.
Yeah.
Which I assumed was going to piss Cameron off. I said, this is not going to please him. Mm-hmm. Boy, was I wrong.
Doesn't care about anything.
No. We go to Cameron's house where he is having a party with everyone. And I wrote, Daisy's attitude is back to season 1 and I'm fucking over it.
My next note says, we just went back to the beginning of season 1 and pretended no development happened.
And then I said, why is Georgia the only one who gives a shit about any of this?
George has finally become the main character in her show. And then I wrote, and it's only by happenstance.
I wrote, I thought you were better than this, Roxy, because Roxy's also falling for the bullshit.
Right.
Speaking of the bullshit.
But why is he even in charge if he screws up so bad? Like, who put him in charge? I can't imagine Destin.
This man doesn't give a shit about anything or anyone. And then, for some reason, his response to George fucking up her reap is to make out with her.
That was the most uncomfortable scene in this movie. I was like, nothing makes sense here. Like, because no one enjoyed that.
She was clearly like trying to recreate her emotions with Rube. So he calls her princess and is like trying to like be fatherly to her, only it's not like dad, it's like daddy, and it was not okay.
It was not good. There was no rationality to it.
No, it was
like, it didn't make sense in the scene. It didn't make sense anytime later. That was a weird choice.
Literally just said, why the fuck did this man just kiss her?
Yeah. I don't even know where that note is, but I did put that up down.
And then I put a note that said, oh, Hudson is Reggie's boy. Because in the first scene, when she almost crashed her car at school, she makes eye contact with this boy who's in the group of popular Degrassi kids, and then they never go back to it. But then I figured out that that was who the dead boy was.
Yeah.
Also, Sinead Grimes, that's when I was like, nope, she also is someone who can only play one character. Wow. She does it well, but she does it.
But we haven't seen her. She may be typecast. We don't know because we haven't seen her in another role. And she's played, she's only done teen stuff.
No, she's done other things. None of them have been good enough for me to watch.
Oh, I haven't seen anything else other than teen shows, so.
Then we have a flashback. Because, George is at the hospital pretending to be a doctor so she can try to get to Hudson to reap him. And this little kid gives her a drawing, and she starts talking about kids doing drawings. And we have a flashback. I'm so sorry. Of her doing a drawing on the sidewalk where she was going to have her sister and mother murdered on the Titanic, basically.
And this was so typical baby George.
It was great, except it was where the fuck was her dad?
And it wasn't the same.
I wasn't mad about it being a different actor because it was a different age. Because baby George that we like is when Reggie's a baby. Yeah. This was clearly like middle school age George because Reggie's a kid. So I was okay with it being a different actress. But
I like the first actress better still.
Which is fair. But in terms of why they recast it, I don't argue with the
when it comes to children and stuff and like time spans.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
I absolutely do not argue with that process. I do argue with the fact that Clancy was not mentioned.
I think that's fair because he was in all of the other similar flashbacks.
Right, and even if he hadn't been on the ground with them while they were doing chalk, why, when she drew herself on the boat and her mom and sister drowning, did she not draw her dad? Her dad was very, very critically still a part of the family.
Absolutely.
So I had problems with that. Like, I get Clancy being written out and not being in the present day scenes. I even got him not physically being there because they didn't hire him to do one flashback. But why did we not mention him in that scene? It didn't make sense.
Yeah, there was no reason for that.
Yeah. Then we go back to the hospital to see what George is trying to do. And she tries to reap Hudson and nothing happens. And I always wondered what would happen if you had tried to reap someone.
I'm glad that that's how it goes, though.
Yeah.
Because
there are alternatives that are not pleasant.
Right.
So then Reggie shows up to the hospital to see Hudson, and Shanae, the bitch. Most of my notes just call her that bitch.
I call her Darcy. Because that was her name in
Degrassi. I wrote, and that bitch sent her away. So she ripped up pictures of her kissing him and then ran away, ?
Yeah. Well, she got on a bus.
Yes, I thought she was running away.
Oh.
The ran away ? Is what is she doing?
Gotcha.
Yes. Then she goes home. She didn't run away. She goes home. And we see that clearly Joy and Reggie have gone to therapy because they are actually communicating with each other.
I know. I put in big caps. This is how you let people grieve, Joy.
Yes.
You've done it.
And then we find out who Hudson is and that he is in love with Reggie, but it's a secret and everything is shitty and she is crying and I have so many feelings.
Yes. That is
so many feelings.
Accurate.
Most of them are not pleasant.
No.
And only most of them are directed toward Reggie.
Right.
So, then we go back to Cameron's weird mansion house. That makes me very uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I don't like that Mason has passed out, drug induced on the floor again.
I don't either.
I'm not a fan.
And when he's awakened, he kisses George. And I was just like, why is everyone kissing Ellen with this movie? Why?
It's not the first time he's kissed her.
No, but it's like all weird moments that are happening now.
I wrote, why is this asshole encouraging Mason's tomfoolery?
Why is he buying him women? I can't with this guy.
And then George goes upstairs because she hears noises. And it turns out that Daisy and Cameron are having what I could only classify as the weirdest sex I've ever seen.
I bet they're too much.
This is not going to be a very long episode because there's nothing positive to say about this movie.
And I think that's okay. We're wrapping it up. I think that's not terrible.
Then Roxy tells George to get over it and like they should just do whatever Cameron does because he's got to figure it out that there are no consequences. And George's like, yes, the fuck there are.
I was like, why is George the only one doing anything right?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense based on the previous show.
And then my next note says George wasn't ready to lose her dad in quotes because she's clearly not handling Rube being gone well.
Yeah.
She's like, that's not what Rube would tell us to do. And Roxy's like, well, Rube's not here. And she's like, well, then tell me what to do.
Right. And Roxy was so Roxy-like in her quotes and how she interacted in the beginning.
But not the way she's treating George.
And not in her morals. She's always wanted to, quote unquote, do the right thing. She always has to be the one who's following the rules.
Yeah.
And she's the one that's like, let's break them all. Nothing matters. And I'm like, okay.
Then I realized that Murray was probably going to die, and I hoped that Charlie was going to come back. That was an unrelated note.
Oh, I did too.
But I just was like,
I thought he was, and then it was that little blonde girl.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But then it goes to a comic book thing again to change the scenes, and I said I don't like this comic book. I also don't like that everyone is breaking all of Rube's rules, and he has not even been dead for a day.
These are literally my next two notes that you said. Those were my next two notes. Like it's insane. Well,
because then my next note after that says everyone's morals have gone out the window, and I hate it here.
My next one just says Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I followed up all of that. I was just like, why?
Because Roxy doesn't rape her dead guy and puts his soul back in his body so that she can get
a medal
or some kind of promotion or something. And then I don't even know what Mason does.
I don't think Mason knows what Mason's doing.
Then we go back to the hospital. And George is obviously not being a doctor anymore, but she fucked that one up. So now she's being a maid. And it is really a useless scene except for that she says, a clean hospital is a happy hospital. And I don't know why, but that just made me laugh a lot.
Because does it sound like George would say that?
Absolutely not.
No.
Then my next one says, did Daisy just kill someone? She pushed someone down the stairs? I thought.
It's possible. I think I got a little distracted at that point. Right before my next note is about happy time.
I don't know if
George is yelling at Amy at happy time.
Yeah, I didn't take notes about that, so you're probably right.
Oh, so next what happens is George, we come back to happy time and she is losing it. Like when I said she had a power trip earlier, this is it. Like she was going all out, and then Amy, we don't know who she is, she's never been there before, decides she's quitting on the spot. And George just like doesn't care. She is so over the top. And I was like, what is going on? And we've always like known she's had a little bit of that like power trip about her.
Was Amy part of the scene where Dolores called Happy Time a corporate dating service? Because
no, that was way earlier.
Oh, yeah, but yes. That's the same girl.
That's the same girl.
Okay. Yes.
So, but like, I mean, we didn't know her before, like this
before the movie, yeah.
Right. And like, we did know that George, I mean, when she first was talking about getting a promotion, she was like, I'm never getting coffee for anyone ever again. And like, so she's always had this little bit of a power trip about her, but she's never been this intense. So I don't know. And then we learned that she gets this FaceTime from Dolores, and Dolores is skydiving with Murray to help him live out his best end of life.
Yes.
And it's just very Dolores.
Yep.
Such a Dolores thing. I wish she would have been in the office more because she was her in the office. But that is what she would do. So
then we go to Daisy getting ready to be in Macbeth. And my note was very angry. It says, Daisy is a better actress than that, you simple bitch.
I bet she was a much better actress. Like,
no way Daisy would have done that.
No, not at all. Because Daisy, like,
she would have either done well or she would have panicked and not gone on at all.
Right. She would have either been too mild or she would have nailed it. Like, yeah, she would not have done this over the top shenanigan thing.
And then we also see Mason being a fucking idiot. And like the girls don't even like it just doesn't even make sense. It does not.
Like they're taking advantage of him and like he doesn't care and he's waiting for Daisy and then she just like blows him off. And I was like, she would not ever blow him off at this point. Like,
no,
especially not like that. She may be like, Mason, I have to get somewhere, I have to do this. Yeah. But she would like take the flower and she'd be like, thank you so much. Like this was,
and then she goes home and she's like acting jealous about Cameron going on a business trip. And she's like, who is she? And I was like, I fucking hate it here.
I know.
And I said, I hate him, except for that I'm not mad at him because he was very true during that statement. He was like, I decided it's probably not a good idea to like sleep with the employees, which we decided that a little late, sir.
Right.
But like, then he says something to her and she's like, blah, blah, like I hate you. And he's like, of course you do. I'm a man. And I was like,
but she said, what's her name? And he said Goldman Sachs.
And he's like, and then she said, is she prettier than me? He said, yeah.
And has more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
well, at least you're very straightforward about it.
Right. Love me an honest piece of shit. And then we have a series of unfortunate events where everything's just going wrong. And they were like, oh no, there are consequences to fucking up the rapes. Like, well, we literally learned that in season 1.
We knew this, guys. This is not news to us.
Yeah. Sorry, because I'm skipping some of my notes because I just don't even want to talk about this movie.
It's because none of it matches with our show that we've been watching. And it's like you mentioned one comment and the next 4 are the same. Like, It's not like you're skipping things. You're just not saying it 4 times.
So then the next important scene part is that Reggie goes to the hospital, or George had gone to Reggie's work to convince her to go to the hospital and talk to Hudson. And then she goes to the hospital, but she runs into George there. And
but while they're still at the ice cream shop, this was sad. She says the way that George is convincing her, she says, what if he dies and you never get to say goodbye? And Reggie just looks at her and she says, I'm used to it. It's like, that's so sad.
So then she is like, who are you and why are you following me? And she was like, I'm your sister. And Reggie's like, that's not a fucking joke. And then she starts listing off all these things that she did while Reggie was a kid. And I was like, that's one fucking way to find out you were right all along.
Right. I was like, we've already like discussed that this is not a good idea. It's like you wait 2 days after Ruth is gone, and then you're like, okay, now I can break every rule he told me I couldn't break. Like,
yeah.
I like Ellen felt like a different George towards the end. At the beginning, she did feel pretty similar to the original character.
Yeah.
Who didn't really have much personality. So like I guess that wasn't hard. But towards the end, she started feeling like a different person.
Yeah.
I didn't care for it.
So then Dolores returns from skydiving, which apparently did not go well for her. And she has to fire George because Happy Time is being sued. And Reggie shows up at the same time. And Dolores basically is like, you let me down. And I was like, yeah, she's let everybody fucking down today.
Right.
So Reggie decides she's going to move in with George. And George is like, you can't do that.
But like, why did she decide that? Like, where did this plot line, like, Stephen Gottschall, John Massey's, when you wrote this, did you, like, read it again?
Yeah.
Like, this is a 16-year-old child whose family's been through a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
She meets this one woman who is, in fact, her sister, but she doesn't even think she's real half the time.
Yeah.
Like, they had a conversation where George says, you're not crazy, Reggie. And Reggie just looks at her and says, you're not real. It's like, you can't even decide if this person's real, and you've decided to up and run away and move in with them.
Yeah.
Like, why is that a storyline?
Yeah, no. But then she's like, because you owe me. And Reggie's like, and George is like, fuck off. And she's like, because you love me. George is like, well,
okay, fine. It's like, it's like they just made everything an easy out.
Yeah.
Every scene that something quote unquote difficult started happening, they just had a quick resolve.
Yeah.
Not anything satisfying, just quick.
Then we go back to the restaurant where everyone is sitting trying to figure out what to do because they've all realized that they fucked up. And they say, what would Rube do? Which is my new philosophy on life.
Mm-hmm. And they tell Roxy some not being passive aggressive. She says there's nothing passive with
so then they go to Cameron and
they
go to Cameron and confront him, and he is like shit talking all of them. And I was like, this is not the direction I thought new leadership was going to go. So then she's like, there's nothing passive. He calls her passive aggressive. She says there's nothing passive about my aggressiveness. Then she knocks him the fuck out,
as she should.
And then
it's more Reggie and George. And because consistently in my notes, I think I have written this in my notes 5 times, that I just really hate the plot point that Reggie knows everything now. Just like that. Yeah. I like that she knows, but it isn't.
So then basically enough. Like George takes Reggie back to the hospital. She says goodbye. George actually gets the reap. He dies because of the dumb Degrassi bitch tripping over his cord for his machines that are keeping him alive.
I was glad in the scene that George stayed true to who she was supposed to be as a Reaper. Yeah. Because I mean, that is one development that we did keep
right.
On her,
and then
which was nice.
And then when he was like, I need to find Reggie, she's like, it's not going to be a good thing for either of you. And I was like, I appreciated that. Then we get a stupid montage of all of the ways that you can't kill a Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out a chainsaw is one way you can.
Yep.
Then we go to the graveyard. No, we don't.
We go to Murray's.
No, we don't. We go to the house where Joy is talking to the police about the fact that Reggie is missing, and she finally, for the first time in her fucking life, puts something together by herself and figures out where Reggie is. Then we go to Murray's funeral, or Murray's hospital visit where he's dying, and it is not Charlie who rapes him, but it did prove my theory that all pet Reapers are kids.
Yep, I had that same thought.
Then and I love that even though she fired her, she still needed Millie. Like that was still the person.
Well, that's like, I mean, I will say that might also be kind of a lazy writing point, because the last time she fired her, the reason she got rehired is because Murray was sick and they went to the doctor. So it was like, the exact same scene, just later and more. And so I was like, so we've just done the same thing twice already.
Yeah, and then Joy and Reggie have a bonding moment, and everything's happy with them. They decide they're going to go on vacation in California. George has Marie's funeral, and it's beautiful. And then the other three show up, and they basically sign language, tell each other that they got rid of Cameron, and they're all together in charge now.
The ashes that she gave Dolores are Cameron's ashes.
I missed that.
Yeah, because she said when she got them, she said, these are really heavy. And she's like, oh, no, that's fine. And,
right.
And they were sending him to space, and that was the only way they felt they could get rid of him was to chop him up, to burn him, to cremate him, to get his ashes, and then give them away to be sent to space.
Yeah. And
that's why it was such a big urn for a cat.
Right. And then we get some more montages about like her finally being at peace with change. And then it rains post-it notes from heaven on her. And I said, this is not a suitable reaction to Ruth being gone.
No. And I think I could be wrong, but I think that was supposed to like signify that she's now in charge because she's getting all the post-it notes.
I just thought it was Rube looking after her.
I thought it meant because they were talking about who's going to be our next leader. What are we
going to do? No, I fully thought it was just Rube being like, you did good, kiddo.
See, I thought it was because she was going to, and I said, that's not really acceptable.
No.
She's not.
None of this movie was acceptable.
None of it. Like, nothing. Like, I would have been happier to have been left
with the shitty finale that we had. Yeah.
It was a good finale. It just wasn't a close of the show. Like, the episode
itself was really good. But no, yeah.
But as a series finale, it was lacking.
It sucked. Nah. This is a really bummer episode. I'm very tired, but also we have had nothing but good things to say about Dead Like Me, and this movie was so bad.
It really brought it down, which is such a shame because this is the first show that we've like really enjoyed throughout the whole thing. Like we haven't, there have been plot holes, there have been writing errors, there are issues. But it's not like we said, oh, I watched that episode and hated it.
No.
Like we liked every episode, even if it wasn't the most well done.
Yeah.
Or, even if we were like, it was a fine episode. It wasn't like great.
Yeah.
But we didn't hate any of the episodes.
No. But
and the movie,
I just like hated.
It was such a bummer. Like,
yeah,
I want to go on the chat boards and see what people said. Like, we should have done this before, but it's been a long weekend. But now I want to go on the chat, like all of the boards, and see like what they said about this movie, because I can only imagine that it's all negative. Like, there can't be one person that is like satisfied with this because they didn't wrap up anything. They just tried to rewrite the story and tell a different one.
Yeah, it was dumb.
Yeah. So
please follow us. No, I guess.
Punch anyone?
Yeah.
We get to
the people
punch
who
them.
fucking made this movie.
You're not wrong.
Also, Cameron, please die.
I was going to say, I picked Cameron. Who was your MVP of this movie?
Dolores?
I picked George.
Which is fine.
I think she finally became her main character. Because the rest of the movie was so bad.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is she was only the main character because everyone else sucked.
Exactly. Which is a shame.
I hated it.
Yeah. Not great. Didn't love it. Sorry about it. But don't worry, because we are getting ready to present our DNA awards, which will be next episode. And those are going to be rock solid and amazing. Those will be so much more fun. And then we will start our new show.
Yay! You can follow us on all the socials. Welcome to the shortest episode ever of this podcast. Follow us on all the socials at Death and Aliens, and follow me at EMKAY_superstar.
You can follow me at CECloud13.
And I promise to not be such a stick in the mud piece of shit on the next episode.
It's going to be fun. Don't worry.
Bye.
Come back. Bye.